Hey folks, and welcome to another video of mine. In today's video, we're going to take a look at Assassin's Creed Rogue Remastered. Now, I'm quite excited to play this game, and I'm also excited to talk about the gameplay aspects because this game actually benefits from Xbox FPS Boost. So, in the compatibility options, you have this option where it says FPS Boost. So, as you can see, it benefits from that. It increases the frame rate, and this runs at 1080p but at 60 FPS thanks to the FPS boost. So we're going to take a look at how this impacts the gameplay overall and how it improves the gameplay. Now, the other thing that I do want to talk about is the fact that this game has been installed on my external hard drive and not on my internal hard drive, the internal storage that is, and it's less than 10 GB, so the game's not really big. Even if you end up storing it on the internal storage, it's not going to take up a lot of your space. Now, this game, in the entry of Assassin's Creed games, had a twist in the storyline where you basically flip sides. So I was quite excited to try this out. In fact, I've never played this game even when it came out. So I started off with Assassin's Creed Origins. That was the first Assassin's Creed game that I played and completed. And then I moved on to Odyssey, which is my personal favorite, and then also Valhalla. And then I started playing the older games in the series like Syndicate, Unity, and now I'm also gonna try out the Rogue Remastered. And with that said, let's get into the gameplay and take a look at Assassin's Creed Rogue Remastered. Let's go, folks. So I just wanted to, start at this section here, simply because of the fact that I wanted to showcase something which is very unique to this particular game. Now, what is unique about this particular game is the fact that when it moves away from the animus, so that means, when he steps out of the animus, our assassin, Shay, that is, it goes into this first-person mode. Yes, this, I believe, is the only game that I have personally played so far when it comes to the Assassin's Creed series, where when you enter, the real world, you go into the, you could say, the first person mode here. So that was unique to this particular entry. And as you can see, everything looks nice. It's 1080p. And if you are playing this on a 4K television, you will definitely benefit with the upscaling that the Xbox Series S does as well. And also, if you've got a good television, the TV itself will upscale the 1080p and make sure that it looks like 4K. So here, as I can see, the graphics are really sharp. Everything looks fantastic. The frame rate is a solid, you could say 60 FPS. Maybe, we're not going to be able to make that out quite properly here in this section. But later on, when we move over to the third person camera angle, then you'd be able to figure out, how effective the 60 FPS really is. So here, I mean, I'm so not used to seeing things in the first person mode when it comes to Assassin's Creed. In fact, I, for one, am not really very good at first-person games. In fact, I have hardly played a few. And the other day, just because I wanted to make a video on Crysis, I did try to download it and I was trying to play around with Crysis. But if I would have recorded that gameplay, it would have been so embarrassing because I'm really bad at it. In fact, that I would say is the first-person game that I've played for so long. So I think a little over a half an hour or something, because I generally do not like first-person games. But hey, if you like first-person games, then, let me know. I can make a few videos on that. Now, coming back to the Assassin's Creed Rogue Remastered. So this experience is very unique to your Assassin's Creed because of the first-person view. But as you can see, the textures, as far as the textures go, the movement, when you swing your head around in the first-person mode, is good. It's very smooth. No ghosting, no tearing, no frame drops, nothing. It's a fantastic smooth experience. So here, we just have a quick puzzle that we have to complete. Now, I am very fond of puzzles in any games. In fact, if you have followed my channel and if you have seen my Black Panther video, which was the War for Wakanda and the Avengers game, then you would know that I am fond of puzzles in a game. That's why I'm fond of the Tomb Raider series, because of the puzzle element that comes in the game. So Here's, one such puzzle. So, we've got to solve it. And in fact, I've never played this game before. So it's not like, I've seen an online video and then, I've tried to, solve this puzzle. I played it um, without watching any tutorials, without watching any, you could say, walkthroughs online. And I enjoy these puzzles. So it didn't take very long. So puzzle solved, fantastic. Time to move on. I think, there's going to be like a story that's going to play out now. A little information about this assassin, Al Mualim. I hope I'm getting the name right. So here is the interesting bit about the storyline, right? Here, this plays out because it speaks about, how this character, Al Mualim, he was an assassin, but his thought process was more like a Templar. So that's why he was different. And that is what is different about this game as well when it comes to our main character, Shay. And spoilers alert now, because Shay starts out as an assassin, but later on in the game, he actually becomes a Templar. So, you get to hear the story from both sides, of the different groups that are in the game, the Templars and the Assassins. That's a unique, you could say, approach that Ubisoft had taken with this particular game. And I think it's quite an interesting concept, to hear the other side of the story as well. That is, the Templar side, because here it states that both sides, they want peace, but they have different approach, towards that. So what we mean to say is, sometimes the the side, like a Templar side, although the game puts them as being the bad guys, but when you finally hear this side of the story, you kind of relate to them, and you're able to understand why they did what they did. So it's an interesting take, and I quite like that about this game. Now, coming back to this, um, just gonna move around a little bit before I enter the Animus again and move over to the Assassin world. So here is again, the first person approach, and I think it's decent. There's not a lot of variety, or as far as the level goes. It looks like a standard office level, and you see that small little arrow. That's what you got to follow on your mobile or a tablet, whatever it is that you're carrying. So you take a look at the directions. Now it says 2 meters, 3 meters, and now I'm finally at the desk, and I'm going to enter the Animus. So entering the Animus, let's take a look at the load time as well. I don't think it's going to be very long, even though it's stored on the external storage, and it was not. I think hardly 10 seconds. So that is good. In fact, it's fantastic. That is what is so great about Series S. And I'm surprised that even though this game has been stored on the external storage, not the internal one, the load times were hardly there. A little cutscene playing out, but it gives you a perspective as to how the graphics are in the game. The character design, well, the detailing is definitely there. You can see a lot of the textures in the skin. You can see the hair texture. You can take a look at the texture on their clothes, the fabric that is. The background has a nice motion blur going for it. I think the characters were designed okay-ish, because the main character, Shay, I'm not a fan. I don't think, with all due respect, he looks that great. Because, when I played the Unity, I think Arno was designed quite well. And if I really have to pick a character, he was quite a good character in the Assassin's Creed series. Arno, you kind of, feel for Arno. And he was a good character. But getting back to this game, everything is sharp, everything is neat. This is a remastered version, so a lot of textures have obviously been worked upon. And I think you can tell by what you're seeing on screen, the walls, the floor, the you could say the texture on the walls, that is. The wallpaper there, I guess it's a wallpaper in the background. And everything looks neat. It's quite good. I mean, for a game which originally came out on the Xbox 360, I think they've done a very good job when it comes to this remastered. And even the soil, the water on the ground, it's all fabulous. The foliage and the trees in the background, brilliant. It's good. And as I'm panning the camera, the 60 FPS, when you pan around, you really can make out a difference. So the 60 FPS, makes a huge difference when it comes to, looking for things, looking around, panning the camera very quickly, here, there, right, left, up, down. So that really comes handy, and you can feel the positive impact of that 60 FPS when you are looking for things. I think, this will come really handy even in your first person shooters and first person games. Although I'm not really a fan of first person games, I really enjoy your third person games. So I have been a fan of Assassin's Creed ever since I played Assassin's Creed Origins. In fact, that was the first Assassin's Creed game that I picked up. And then I went from there to Odyssey, my personal favorite, like I said at the start of the video. And then even Valhalla, which was, I think, all right. It was all right, not that bad, not as bad as, some people make it out to be. And then I went back and I played some of the older titles like Syndicate and Unity. I enjoyed Unity, by the way, fabulous game, but it had some issues even on your PS4 Pro when it comes to your frame rate. It was quite evident, that there were frame drops, and it would suffer sometimes. Also because of the fact that it was a game where it was filled with NPC characters. And my God, for a game that old, I'm quite surprised that they actually managed to do that. Because hello, Cyberpunk 2077, if you're listening, or if the developers somehow can take some cues from Assassin's Creed Unity, that'd be great, because it was a game which was filled with life, filled with NPCs, and I would say they did a fantastic job there. But when it comes to the consoles, it suffered, that game, and you could literally make it out in the frame drops that would happen. This game, coming back to Rogue Remastered, first of all, it does not have as many NPCs. Whether it's this level or whether it's your other levels, the level of NPCs are far, far lower. But even, if you don't consider that, the frame rates overall, it's been a solid, you could say, smooth experience so far. You can literally tell that this game is in 60 FPS, and it makes a whopping difference. In fact, it makes a huge difference, especially, these are areas where there is not a lot of action right now, but I'm sure people will appreciate, where you have to move around, crawl, crouch, run perhaps, and then, be engaged in a battle or a fighting, kind of an environment. You would appreciate the extra frame rate, and it is smooth. I assure you guys, it's such a fantastic experience. The Series S, again, such a capable device. $300 gets you 1080p with 60 FPS, and that is more than decent. In fact, even if you want to get a PC configured and you want to run the same kind of a setup where you get 1080p with 60 FPS with ray tracing in some games, by the way. This game does not have ray tracing, but in some games you can. And a bare minimum PC that you would configure for all these kind of things would cost you somewhere between $500 to $600. And for a console, which costs half of that, to be able to pull it off, and that too, in such a great way. It's not a cheap way of pulling things off. It's not a cheap substitute. They're doing a fantastic job with the Series S, and it's commendable. The way it runs these games is absolutely brilliant. The frame rates, fantastic. The graphics, if you're playing it on a 4K TV, because of the upscaled, you could say, graphics, you will benefit from that. Of course, it's not native 4K. Natively, this game runs at 1080p. But hey, I'm telling from my personal experience, I'm playing it on a Samsung AU9000 series, and sitting at a distance of around 6 to 7 feet, I can tell for sure that everything looks very sharp. The background, the motion blur looks brilliant. Even the draw distance, if I really want to shoot, at a character at quite some distance, everything's clear. There's no haziness. Very minimal aliasing, I would say, but that's minimal. It's hardly negligible. Of course, this is the Series S, so this is running it at 1080p. In fact, some games, even if you want to output it at 4K, the game itself has some limitations, right? Because not all games have been designed in 4K or developed keeping 4K in mind. There are still certain developers who have made these games keeping 1080p or 1440p, especially I'm talking about the time when these games came out on the Xbox 360, you know. I mean, back then, 1080p was gold, Full HD was gold. That was the gold standard. Now, of course, we've moved on. We've moved over to the 4K, you know, kind of a standard. So most game developers in 2021, of course, will consider the 4K to be the standard, and they will build upon that. But back when this was created, Full HD was gold. And I can say for sure, you know, very minimal aliasing, you know, I mean, there's hardly any frame drops that I've experienced so far. Camera moves across really smoothly, and you can make out the 60 FPS. And let me again remind you that this game has benefited from the FPS boost that you get on the Xbox Series S. And there's certain games, in fact, there is a list of games that benefits from the FPS boost. And I'm going to put up the link of that in the description box as well, should you want to check that out. So you can take a look at those games. You can download them on your Xbox Series S if you own them, and then, you know, enjoy it. I mean, experience it yourself, and maybe you can come back and share some of your experiences in the comment box as well. I really look forward to your comments after I post every single video of mine. So I would appreciate if you could share your experiences here in the comment section. And yeah, let me know if there's some other game that you would want me to try, some other game with FPS boost, you know, that you would want me to try. I mostly try to play, you know, third-person shooters, but hey, I'm here because of you guys. And even if you want me to play a first-person game, I'm all up for it. In fact, I've downloaded Crysis Remastered. That is another remastered, you know, game that I've downloaded, and I'd be very happy to make a video on that as well. Although it's a first-person shooter, I have downloaded The Mist as well. I really wanted to try it out. Never played it, surprisingly, and it's a beautiful puzzle game. So let me know if you want me to try out The Mist as well. Again, coming back to this game, very neat. The game dynamics, they're pretty much the same. When it comes to the actions, when it comes to the movement, it's very similar to Syndicate and Unity. I think Origins was the Assassin's Creed game where they made a huge change when it comes to the controls and the way the game actually functions. There was a lot of RPG elements that were added, starting with the Origins. So that was the game which changed Assassin's Creed. But prior to Origins, all the games, I think, you know, they follow a very similar pattern, you know, the same buttons. You know, you press the RT on an Xbox and then you run or sprint. And the controls and all very familiar. You'll feel right at home if you've played Unity, if you've played Assassin's Creed 3. By the way, that's another remaster that I have actually tried. I can, you know, make a video on that as well if you want me to. Yeah, but the controls, this is very, very similar to all the other Assassin's Creed games before Assassin's Creed Origins. So if you have been familiar with 1, 2, 3, or, you know, the other games like Black Flag, like Syndicate, like Unity, you'll feel right at home when it comes to the controls. So yeah, I mean, again, take a look at, you know, everything that's happening on the screen. There are some characters now in the background. Again, the trees, they look sharp, by the way. The building, the bricks, etc., they are sharp. I mean, you can really make it out that they've worked on the textures. The flooring, there's a nice wooden flooring here, and you know, I mean, you can make that out. It's brilliant. There's a lot of work on the carpet that's on the floor, carpet or a rug, whatever you want to call it. And hey, it's all fantastic. I mean, really, really good. So the graphics are brilliant, as you can see. Even when it switches over to the cutscenes, you don't feel a jerk, or you don't feel, you know, like this intrusion. You could say it's a seamless experience from gameplay to graphics, cutscenes, and then back to the gameplay. And again, all the characters, they've been well designed, except for, you know, Shay, I believe. You know, I don't really like the way they have designed his face. Achilles, if you are familiar with Assassin's Creed 3, it's the same character, you know, the same old man who actually trains, you know, our protagonist in Assassin's Creed 3. So there's a short cutscene there, the costumes and all, everything is brilliant. A lot of texture, a lot of detailing everywhere. If you take a look at the collars, if you take a look at the strap around his waist, and the fabric itself, you can make that out. So we finally completed this mission, and we're gonna stop here. And yeah, again, graphics fantastic, frame rate brilliant, 60 FPS all throughout, so smooth, it's absolutely mind-blowing that this is actually getting done on a console which just costs $300. Absolutely mind-blowing. So yeah, and when it comes to the character design, when it comes to the gameplay as well, you'll feel right at home with Assassin's Creed Rogue Remastered. It's just like any other game of Assassin's Creed. And overall, I've quite enjoyed playing this, and it's a game that I could easily recommend because I'm a fan of the Assassin's Creed series. So yeah, that brings me to the end of this particular video. I'll kind of stop here. And remember, guys, I mean, the comment box is open. Please feel free to comment and let me know if you think I've missed out on anything. If you want to ask anything about this game, feel free to ask me. I look forward to your comments after I post every single video of mine. And in case you haven't hit that like and subscribe button, please do go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. It helps with the YouTube algorithm. It definitely encourages me and motivates me as well. And I can put out more videos like this. And hit that bell icon as well in case you haven't already hit that bell icon. With that said, it's a wrap for this one. Until we meet again in the next video, folks, take care, stay safe, and may God bless you all.